What if a fifth-generation fighter exists, officially in service, yet almost never appears in real combat footage? What if its greatest strengths are also the reason it remains misunderstood? And most importantly, is the Su-57 a future threat, or a strategic compromise forced by reality? The Su-57 Felon is one of the most controversial combat aircraft ever built. To some, it represents Russia's long-awaited answer to the American F-22 and F-35. To others, it is an unfinished experiment surrounded by secrecy, bold claims, and unanswered questions. What makes the Su-57 so fascinating is not just what it is, but what it was meant to become, and whether it can still fulfill that promise in a rapidly changing world of air combat. Before we go deeper into this story, subscribe to the channel for objective, data-driven military aviation analysis. No propaganda, no hype, just facts, context, and honest assessment. Russia's need for the Su-57 did not emerge in isolation. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, the balance of air power shifted dramatically. The United States introduced the F-22 Raptor, a fighter designed not merely to win air battles, but to dominate entire airspaces before an enemy even realized it was under threat. Later, the F-35 expanded this dominance through sensor fusion, networking, and large-scale production. For Russia, continuing to rely solely on upgraded fourth-generation platforms was no longer enough. A new aircraft was needed, not just to fight, but to signal technological parity and strategic relevance. This requirement gave birth to the PAKFA program, which eventually evolved into the Su-57. From the beginning, Russian designers made it clear that they were not copying the American model. Instead of chasing extreme stealth at all costs, they pursued a balanced philosophy. The Su-57 was designed to reduce detectability, but also to retain high agility, long-range sensors, and powerful electronic warfare systems. This choice alone explains much of the debate surrounding the aircraft today. Visually, the Su-57 looks stealthy, but closer inspection reveals differences that matter. The aircraft uses angular shaping and internal weapons bays, yet its airframe includes features such as exposed engine compressor faces and complex panel geometry that likely increase its radar cross-section compared to Western stealth fighters. Most Western analysts classify it as a low observable aircraft rather than a true stealth platform. However, this does not mean it is easy to detect or track, especially when combined with electronic countermeasures and tactical employment. This leads to an important question. In an era of advanced sensors and networked battlefields, is absolute stealth still the ultimate advantage, or has survivability become a more complex equation? Perhaps the most critical limitation of the Su-57 lies not in its airframe, but in its engines. Early production aircraft are powered by the AL-41F1 engine, an advanced but transitional design derived from previous Russian fighters. While powerful and reliable, it does not fully meet fifth-generation standards. Sustained supercruise performance is limited, fuel efficiency is lower than desired, and infrared signature reduction is incomplete. These shortcomings are not minor details. They shape how the aircraft can be used in combat. The true vision for the Su-57 depends on the Izdelia-30 engine, a next-generation power plant intended to deliver higher thrust, improved efficiency, lower observability, and full supercruise capability. Test flights with this engine have been conducted, but it has not yet entered widespread operational service. Until it does, the Su-57 remains, in many respects, an aircraft waiting for its final form. This raises a difficult but necessary question. Can a fighter be judged fairly before its core propulsion system is complete? Where the Su-57 becomes truly interesting is in its sensor architecture. Unlike Western fighters that rely heavily on a single primary radar supported by sensor fusion, the Su-57 employs a distributed radar system. At its center is the N036 Bielka ESA radar, supported by additional arrays mounted around the airframe. Most notably, the aircraft incorporates L-band radar elements embedded in the wing leading edges. These L-band radars are not designed for precision targeting, but they may provide an advantage in detecting stealth aircraft optimized against X-band radars. Combined with infrared search and track systems and electronic warfare capabilities, the Su-57 appears optimized not only to avoid detection, but to challenge stealth itself. This design choice suggests a different tactical role. Rather than sneaking undetected through enemy airspace, the Su-57 may be intended to operate as part of a broader sensor and electronic warfare network, detecting threats at long range and engaging from a distance. So the question becomes, is the Su-57 less about invisibility and more about awareness and disruption? Weapons integration further supports this idea. The Su-57 features internal bays that allow it to carry air-to-air and air-to-ground munitions while maintaining reduced observability. Its primary beyond visual range missile, the R-77M, incorporates an AESA seeker and improved range, while the R-74M2 provides high off-boresight capability in close combat. For strike missions, the aircraft can deploy precision-guided munitions and stealth cruise missiles such as the AH-59 Mk2. However, the internal weapon bays are relatively compact compared to Western counterparts, limiting payload capacity in full stealth configuration. This implies reliance on standoff weapons and coordinated engagements rather than high-volume internal loadouts. Again, the design reflects a specific doctrine rather than a universal solution. One of the most debated aspects of the Su-57 is its combat record. Russia has acknowledged limited deployments to Syria, where the aircraft reportedly conducted sensor testing and weapons trials. These missions appear to have focused on validation rather than combat exposure. In the context of the conflict in Ukraine, open-source intelligence suggests that Su-57s have launched long-range strikes while remaining within Russian-controlled airspace. What has not been observed is just as important. There is no confirmed evidence of deep penetration missions, sustained air-to-air combat, or operations over heavily defended zones. This cautious employment likely reflects the aircraft's limited numbers and strategic value. Losing a single Su-57 would not only be a military setback, but a symbolic one. So does limited use indicate weakness or careful asset management? Production numbers provide further context. Unlike the F-35, which has been produced at scale, the Su-57 exists in relatively small quantities. Sanctions, budget constraints, and industrial challenges have slowed production, limiting operational experience and doctrinal development. This scarcity shapes how the aircraft is deployed and how it is perceived abroad. Export prospects have been equally complex. India was once a key partner through the FGFA program, but withdrew due to concerns over cost, stealth performance, and engine maturity. Turkey expressed interest after its removal from the F-35 program, yet no agreement materialized. Algeria is frequently cited as the most likely export customer, with widespread reports suggesting advanced discussions and strong interest. However, it is critical to be precise here. As of now, there is no official confirmation from either Algeria or Russia that Su-57 aircraft have been delivered, entered service, or that pilot training has reached an operational stage. Until such confirmation exists, these reports remain unverified, regardless of how credible they may appear. This distinction matters. In the Western analytical community, credibility is everything. When compared directly with its American counterparts, the Su-57 occupies a unique position. The F-22 remains unmatched in air-to-air stealth and kinematic performance, while the F-35 excels in sensor fusion, networking, and large-scale deployment. The Su-57 emphasizes agility, electronic warfare, and long-range detection, reflecting Russia's strategic priorities and constraints. Looking forward, the most promising future role for the Su-57 may not be as a lone fighter, but as a command platform. Tests involving cooperation with the S-70 Okhotnik stealth drone suggest a vision of manned-unmanned teaming, where the Su-57 directs unmanned systems into high-risk environments. In such a role, the aircraft's sensors and electronic warfare capabilities may become more important than its own stealth. So, what is the Su-57 really? Is it a failed attempt to replicate Western success, or a deliberately different solution shaped by Russian doctrine and reality? Is it incomplete, or simply evolving at its own pace? And finally, if you had the choice, would you trust absolute stealth or a fighter designed to see first, disrupt first, and strike from distance? Share your answer in the comments, and if you found this analysis valuable, subscribe to the channel for more deep dive military aviation content. Because in modern air warfare, understanding the philosophy behind the aircraft matters as much as the aircraft itself.